You guys know Grant Stankfield, right? Destroying their own argument. The left wants their way through intimidation. This is the. I swear to God, there must be like a handout just in. Your argument is invalid, Grant Stankfield. Grinch Stankfield. Grandpa Stank. All right, so felt up. I don't know what his name is, and I don't care. But this, I think they pass out some sort of flyer that goes this. Okay, guys, the talking point is you have to understand the left is into mind control, and that's what we're gonna throw. That's what we're working on.
I'd watch.
Oh, there we go.
Democrats of today have become more delusional.
Okay, gosh, tell me all about me, Grant.
More radical, and
okay, more radical. Really? And the way they got more radical was to elect Joe Biden. Not Bernie Sanders? Not Elizabeth Warren? Bernie got within, swinging distance, but he tops out at 30%, as far as his electability rating within the Democratic Party. In many ways, it was only that Trump was as unpopular as he was that people believed that Bernie could win overall because there's a ceiling on his support. In many ways, that only because Hillary Clinton was as unliked as she was because of 30 years of them destroying her character at every turn, because she went so far as to create a children's health insurance program and guide it through the government while her husband was president instead of just sitting there and making doilies. That Trump was able to win, but they just don't like when that applies. But we'll see. Let's see.
Yes, more violent than ever.
Oh, well, more violent. Well, clearly, words are violence. And every time I call him Grant Stankfield, a demon gets its wings.
Before. Now, the way they choose to get things done is through threats, coercion, and, of course, intimidation.
Threats? Remember this, guys. This is your checklist. Threats, coercion, and intimidation. This is how we get things done. I mean, sure, we voted in huge numbers and Biden beat Trump by 7 million votes, and they charged the Capitol. But what was it, coercion something?
The rhetoric is often public calls for violence.
Oh, okay, public calls for violence. We're getting into the Maxine Waters saying confrontation means that, we're being more violent.
Violence that is all too often carried out, as we've seen on the streets across.
Yeah, I remember when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was speaking on the lawn, and she said trial by combat. Oh, that was Rudy Giuliani. My bad. I always get them mixed up.
America. Today, after watching the response to the Chauvin Floyd verdict, I actually believe there are Black Lives Matter Antifa street terrorists that are disappointed by this verdict.
See? I mean, it's almost word for word the Ben Shapiro talking point.
Reason? They actually wanted to riot.
Yeah, I know. We were so close. A lot of us were thinking maybe if we, because allegedly they doxed the jury. I think somebody was trying to, create a hung jury or mistrial or something like that, just so we could riot. That would have been so fun. Oh God. I mean, it's just because I think it's the only way we're going to get rid of all those old buildings. It's just, if you really think about it, rioting is our only real shot at true gentrification.
Last night, and of course,
such a dickhead.
Of course, they needed an excuse to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't just riot for no reason. Then there's no riots. I mean, riot sympathy is really what we run on. I mean, that's how I power my electric car.
Last night they didn't get one, but they still turned out to show us all they aren't satisfied.
Yeah, You mean by not rioting?
I'm not an independent. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a revolutionary.
Okay, so what does that guy have to do with me? I mean, obviously, if you're going to say leftist in terms of, like, Leninists, I can't help you. I mean, Stankfield. I mean, Do I have to play clips of sovereign citizens refusing to get out of their car and shooting at cops because and go, the right has gone completely?
We're never going to be satisfied. Black Lives Matter isn't a trend, it's a movement. Black Lives Matter forever, okay?
And we are no longer.
Okay. Yeah, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I would not be comfortable with a country going backwards after we've raised awareness that, I mean, obviously Black Lives Matter is born out of Black Lives Matter also, because the predicate was that oftentimes it seems that everyone else's life matters, but Black lives don't, and they do, and therefore Black Lives Matter too. But which sounds like a sequel to the worst horror movie that Ben Shapiro and Grant could go see together.
We are demanding entrance, and we are not taking no for an answer.
We're demanding entrance, and we are not taking no for an answer. Next thing you know, they'll want to be able to join our golf clubs.
We can defund the police, and maybe one day we will abolish the police, but we ain't gonna do unless we have control over them.
Okay. And it's a little threadbare. I'm just saying the actual marches, protests, and riots and looting that happened last year about and around the George Floyd killing. I'm just seeing a lot of asphalt, Grant. I'm seeing, I don't doubt that the activist class is out there, and it seems like it's almost, like a third of the people there are like this, and the other 2/3 are there because, they're going to go out and celebrate it, and also go, there's still a long way to go.
So you see, these
Yeah, so you see, you're not going to play what he was singing?
anarchists aren't concerned about
Yes, anarchists are not concerned. Grant finally understands that anarchists aren't comfortable with government. Do sovereign citizens next, Grant.
race or fairness. They want power. They want the public living in fear of what retaliation may come next.
Is that what the system's going to be based? So they want to tear down the system. I've always struggled to understand what the fuck libertarians are talking about, much less anarchists. You know what I mean? I'm sure there's at least one libertarian, sovereign citizen, anarchist in our chat room somewhere that can kind of lay down a platform. They have someplace, but as an anarchist, if you lay down a platform, aren't you going against your own movement? I mean, the minute you actually, you can't take over a system you don't actually believe exists when everybody else is participating in it. And then if you're a revolutionary, what you want to turn the country around right as we're moving towards racial justice and equity. That's technically that's why the right is calling for revolution in their own way. If you look at it, that guy yelling he's a revolutionary, he's no different than the people who stormed the Capitol on the 6th in some ways, because what they want to do is send the country backwards. It's so weird.
It's why facts never matter to.
Well, of course not. Absolutely. No, you don't use, it's a fact that you don't use Christmas colors on a banner about something this serious. And yet.
Them. Look at this latest.
Look at that. Hold on. Look at this. What does that guy's sign say? Hold on. First of all, that one says, let's see, just for George Floyd and all something, stolen lives? Stolen lives. I think that's what it says. Right. The world is watching. Okay? That's what the big sign says. Now, understand. We all are about to get a grasp on the fear that Grant Stankfield is feeling right now as we
next.
Watch what the sign says when they, and by the way, it's a picture of George Floyd, which is enough to scare Grant.
It's why,
because he feels like he's being haunted.
Facts never matter to.
There it is. Okay. Love, unity, peace, respect. 4 Directions, Black West. I don't know if that's one of Kanye's relatives. 4 Directions, Black West. I don't know what the 4 Directions, Black West means. Probably a movement or whatever. But the whole love, unity, peace, and respect. I'm good with that, right? Unless those have a lefty meaning that I don't understand. Maybe tomorrow is Stankfear. That's his name. Glenn. What's his name? Flint Stankflesh. Grant, grandma's stank fart. I mean, obviously, the scary part is that it says love, unity, peace, and respect, but they're in quotes, so you know they mean something else.
Them. Look at this latest officer-involved shooting in Columbus, Ohio. The cop who shot and killed a knife-wielding 16-year-old.
Yeah, the story came out that that it was an unarmed girl. It was 16, and then as the footage comes out, people start becoming more aware of the details, and then it fades. This has happened a couple of times. Yeah, that's a knife. She's got a knife right there. That dude was kicking a girl. They showed up on something violent. The other question is, there were other cops that arrived early. Why didn't they intervene?
Should be hailed as a hero in my mind. He saved the life of the girl in the pink sweats there. The girl he killed, sadly, tried to stab that other girl. It's clear on the video. So as an officer saves a life, tragically being forced to take another life, and still the Black Lives Matter crew goes crazy.
They went crazy, guys. They went crazy.
Egged on by a devious and uninformed media.
They were egged on by a devious and uninformed. Can you be devious and uninformed? I mean, you can make the argument that or maybe it's two sides. Maybe Fox is uninformed when they were reporting on it. They didn't have all the details. But MSNBC and CNN are devious, I guess.
There was no attempt to use pepper spray or a taser, non-lethal force, while a knife can be seen in the footage before the officer fires his weapon.
Can be seen? That's Brian Williams of MSNBC. She's swinging the knife all over the place.
That's not abundantly clear from the footage that we just saw, that she's swinging it all over the place. But, I mean, he pulled up and drew down with deadly force on her because she was using a deadly weapon on someone else. That's not that weird. The reaction, though, was before the details came out. That would be the uninformed. I'm sure he thinks it's devious, though.
Trying to stab somebody. Pepper spray is not going to stop that. Use a taser, he says. That is far too risky, by the way, and may not stop the potential killer in time. In this case.
Neither will bullets, by the way, a lot of times. There's a story about this one cop that now carries 144 rounds in his car at all times because he emptied 3 magazines into a dude that had fired on him at a traffic stop, and the guy kept coming. Emptied 3 magazines. He was down to 4, I think he had 4 bullets left in his gun, and it was only because he had been shot himself. He was laying on the inside on the bed. The dude from the car was on the roadside of the cop's vehicle. The cop was behind his vehicle because they'd been firing at each other, and the guy kept coming this way. And the guy looked underneath, and the cop shot him in the forehead. That was the only way he stopped him. So he carries a shit ton of rounds now. And again, this is a fast-moving situation. And here's the thing: this isn't even about this particular cop that had to fire. I have tremendous sympathy for this cop who's gone through this situation. It's terrible to have to take a life and all this thing. But we need to make sure the cops have more non-lethal options. That they roll up in a situation like this where they're supposedly fighting, like fist fightings, with 40 millimeter beanbag guns that will knock everybody on their ass. And you can't sue if you get a rib broken because your option is I can either try to tase you, which has to reach you. I have to be within 12 feet and it has to connect. And if it doesn't connect, you're going to keep doing whatever you're going to do. And if you have a knife, you're going to continue to stab someone. And now I'm responsible for 2 deaths because you're not going to stop. And I'm going to have to kill you and that person is dead. So I have that or my gun. Well, let's give them some more options. If you want to worry about funding the police, if that's your argument, then roll up and go, every cop has, pepper ball gun, has a 40 millimeter beanbag round gun, all available to them for those kind of situations. And you roll up and 911 lets you know this is a Class A situation. We're aware of this kind of violence. We're getting constant reports. Or, there's a person with a gun. Okay, so we are all sidearmed. But this is a situation where there's fighting, there's a house party, there's noise, there's a domestic dispute, yada, yada, and you roll up with stuff that can put people down without killing them. And you give all those cops that. You want to fund the police? Fund that shit, Grant Stankfield.
Watching the video, it's clear. The safest, most effective way to protect innocent life is to use the firearm in this case.
Yeah, but because that's all he had. The argument would be, is not you're not tearing down the system. You're not going to not send cops. You just go, who was stabbed? All right, well, thanks. We'll check them off our dead list. We're not going to send cops anymore. We're not sending cops to that. She gets her head kicked in by this dude. She gets stabbed. And then you just send us a list of the dead people there, and we'll send a coroner over to bag them up. Nobody's saying that. So the argument is, give them more options than lethal force in certain circumstances. They could have kneecapped her. No, you can't. Guys, you don't shoot at people's legs. I've heard this a bunch. You don't shoot at people's legs because A, you can miss. The bullets continue to travel. They will go someplace else. In this situation, they might hit the girl she's trying to stab. It might go through her and strike somebody else. You aim for center mass because if you're pulling the gun to shoot someone, you should only be shooting them if you intend to kill them. Shooting to wound means that's why you have a taser. That's why you have a baton. That's why you have other stuff. If you can wound them and that would solve it in any way, then you should have other options. And that's where I'm talking about the 40 millimeter beanbags or pepper ball guns or like knockdown guns, which should be a next thing. Yeah.
But Brian Williams refuses to admit that. You can see it all right there on the video. Because Brian Williams knows an angry cop-hating crowd whipped into a frenzy that takes to the streets looking to destroy is, of course, good for ratings.
Is it now? Gia, is that why you're playing the footage, Grant? Is fear-mongering about dealing with these kind of circumstances and the ensuing riotous behavior or protest that might happen, isn't that good for ratings? Grant, if anybody wants to tear down the system that continually feeds you this idea that leftist activists are creating Black Lives Matter armies that are can't wait to set the night on fire, then what would you air, honestly? What kind of apple pie recipes you got right now? If you guys haven't canceled apple pie, I know you did baseball.
So he interviews cop-hating race baiters like Jason Johnson.
We're hitting Jason again. Do they have like a rotating target?
In 22 seconds, he shot her dead. An honor roll student who's making TikTok videos on makeup and hair. This hasn't stopped.
So look, I'm saddened. A 16-year-old resorted to grabbing a knife and tried to kill someone. But I don't care if she just left Build-A-Bear on her way to ballet class. The officer doesn't know her background. And honestly, her background does not matter in all of this. She is clearly seen trying to stab another teenager. Why is this officer now not billed as a man who just preserved life?
Well, they did. That's what the chief of police said. I think that one person stepped down there for something else that they said, but he's not going to lose. They're not going to lose their job. They aren't. Ultimately, this will be ruled a good shoot because of the circumstance. It's not the point. It isn't the point.
Instead, they paint him as the enemy. And though the
do we? Guys, I forgot. I was not watching my own show. How can you tase someone and kill them? Curious? Yes, you can. You can cause a heart attack if someone has, it's rare. The problem with a taser a lot of times is that they've dialed them back so much because they don't want people to die of a heart attack from them, that they don't stop people the way they should. So the most egregious people you need to use a taser on, the hardest, the ones you're like, okay, I'm this close to having to shoot this person, but I'm going to tase them. Oftentimes that will require two tasers, or you'll actually have to do a driver taser where you take the actual taser that you have, you shoot them with it, and while they're being jolted, you actually have to use the taser materially where you push it on them and pull the trigger so that it zaps them. So
the Chauvin guilty verdict may have happened minutes before. Like race, it has nothing to do with this case.
Beg your pardon? Why does the Chauvin case have nothing to do with race?
40 minutes after that ruling, a 16-year-old girl can be shot in front of her house. So no, I'm not hopeful.
Well, geography doesn't have anything to do with whether or not you can be shot by the police. Most people actually in domestic violence situations or fights are often shot in their own homes by the police after, because domestic violence is, which I guess this fight, I don't know I have not heard the full story about who was fighting who and who called who and whether it was a foster home and the aunt and yada yada. Seems to be a lot of backstory to this. But domestic violence calls are the most violent calls cops can go on a lot of times because they'll break up somebody, go to take away the abuser, and the abusee will open fire on or attack the police officer, or the abuser will lock themselves in a room. There was I've seen cops attacked with a machete when they showed up to stop a wife beater. I've seen videos of the body cam footage of them, them taking a man away for beating his wife, and the wife comes out of a bedroom with a gun to shoot the cops for taking him. So,
well, guess what?
This is one case where a stun gun should have been used. The problem with it is that when it comes to a knife, often training is that a knife is a deadly weapon. The person has to be stopped, period. That's the issue. Because stunning them won't necessarily stop them from stabbing somebody. And then you've got a dead person that didn't have to die because you were busy protecting the person who was planning on murdering someone.
Hopeful either. I'm not hopeful about America's youth.
Well, obviously. Look where you work.
And the training they get from people like Johnson, who you just saw there.
The training? Oh, guys, I don't know. Did Jason start his own BLM paramilitary school?
Training to embrace outrage, violence.
Do you have to be trained to embrace outrage? I understand this guy could use empathy classes.
Violence, lies.
You watch too much Cops, Hal? I don't watch any Cops. What are you talking about?
Can children be so confused? This is what they do to them. They absolutely confuse them that they resort to trying to stab friends. But this is where we are at today.
Yeah, that's where we're at today. That a single circumstance that happened as the Chauvin trial was happening, or the verdict was coming down, is indicative of our entire behavior. And now, apparently, we have to tear down all of our systems, to use the Ben Shapiro phraseology, because Grant Stankfield is upset.
Young men and women think it's okay.
I get that too, but why a deadly shot? Because there is no other shot. If you're pulling your gun to shoot, you're only doing it to kill the person. You shouldn't draw it just to wound someone. It's not a wounding weapon. If you can do anything else, you do something else. If you can't do anything else, you pull your sidearm and put the person down. That's really where it is. In reality, not in, nobody gets winged. I think we got too many generations of people who've watched people rub a shoulder wound with a bullet in it on television shows. Man, there was some joke about how many broken ribs and shoulder bullets has Batman gotten in the last 50 years?
To loot and steal, burn and destroy.
Yeah, that's, what time, guys, do you know what time Jason Johnson's looting, stealing, burning, and destroying class is? Or is that 4 classes? I don't know if is it a certificate program or can I get my degree? I just need to know how many credits I'm going to need.
Whenever something doesn't go their way,
Whenever something doesn't go their way. Well, it went their way and now... Oh, I see. So it's bad. Thanks, Grant, for filling this. So it's bad if when something doesn't go your way, say like an election, that you act violently and sort of storm, say, a official building of some sort, and like erecting a gallows in response to losing an election would be, out of balance with proper societal behavior. Is that what we're saying? Is it an elective, Steve? Thank you. I appreciate that.
A knife and try to stab a friend. And what I see now...
Well, if you're stabbing them, are they really a friend?
Now is they crave this violence and destruction.
Well, I don't know. I've been binge watching a lot of, Mindhunter and Bundy shows, but that's just because my girlfriend likes it.
Thanks to the violence inciting left-wing politicians.
Yeah, thank God Ted Nugent joined the left so that when he holds an M16 up on stage and tells Hillary Clinton she can sit on it, and And I think that was an elective, or is that just a, the kind of political vaginal shooting is an elective in the right-wing college system in Michigan?
Who lead them all?
Serve as a reminder that a single verdict in a single trial will never be enough.
Well, yeah, of course not. You don't get to go back to doing something. Why are they? I don't understand why they would expect that to be the case. If you're trying to solve something you view as systemic, and if you believe there is nothing systemic there, then this case wouldn't solve it for you either. Thank you for stabbing a friend. Thanks, Renzo. Thank you for stabbing a friend.
This goes way beyond party or political faction.
No, it doesn't. Clearly, this is all hyper-left.
Racism strikes at the very core of this country.
It's always about racism with them, right? The sad reality is they are all unaware that every move they make, every ridiculous demand that they level,
every ridiculous move you make
actually weakens
Grant will be watching you.
Their own argument.
Oh, it does? So marching and protesting and hashtagging and all the things that went with looking for justice for the Floyd family and the like actually goes against, I see. So it's in its own way, it's some sort of
they call for
inverse racism, reverse racism, covert racism. What is it? It's one of the verts.
Defunding of the police.
All right. Yes, we're back to defunding of the police, which no one in power is calling for.
That'll only make policing worse.
By the way, if you're keeping track, I think I actually called for more funding for police, but to give them more non-lethal options when dealing with the public, who, quite frankly, can be awful.
Less money for training, more problems will certainly arise. They vilify officers. Fewer good men and women will choose law enforcement as a career because of this war on cops. That only leads to more bad cops.
Yeah, cops, they only take it because they want the attention and the positive. They're not doing it because they want their neighborhoods to be genuinely safe and stuff like that. They're doing it for the accolades. And if you stop congratulating them, most people don't even talk to cops. There's the rare human being who walks around when they see police, are like, hey, thanks, hi, how are you? But most people are like, they see cops and they avoid them. It's literally like two giant noses walked in and you just farted. Everybody just kind of immediately acts like, oh, God, the noses are here.
And when they look at you and lie, claiming fiction as fact.
You just said that because of what one person said and three people in a small gathering, I guess in Minnesota, maybe in New York, can't really tell, that is my argument and the belief system of the entirety of the Democratic Party, and that we have become increasingly radical. And you have not mentioned at all January 6th in your analogous revolutionaries are destroying the world kind of situation. So I'm going to call bullshit, Grant.
They destroy themselves, their delusional arguments.
Well, then if they're destroying themselves, just wait.
And sad,
twiddle your thumbs, Stankfield.
The minds of the uninformed that they seek to control.
So that's what we're doing. We're trying to seek the uninformed by informing them with all the wrong information. I'm sorry, not me. Newsmax, actually, just to be clear. But this is, which Newsmax he does very well. Yes, this is clearly, hey cops, you can't handle your job, quit. It's not that simple, Jess. It's not about handling their job, and they're not handling their job, they're handling our job. Because the option used to be mob justice, and it used to happen very quickly, and it was awful. So we have, over the decades, the centuries even, removed the power of the direction of the police from royals or any kind of theocrat or monarch. And then, hold on one second, we don't need that graphic in there. And we have put it in the hands of representatives who are elected, and we've increased the number of elected people that are in there, but people have to sign up and decide to become police officers. And we, I think it was Lenny Bruce who said, that that policemen are the mailman, that society often knows awful things have to be done, and we just, you go do that. I'd do it, but I'm too nice a guy. I know it has to be done sometimes, but I don't want to be there when it happens. I'll be over here. And a lot of times that's the way it is. We have a responsibility. Whenever cops do something that we don't like, that's us, because we're the ones who control the levers of power through our voting and who we put in office, and the lack of available non-lethal equipment that they have, the tactical response stuff that they've had, the militarization of it. That's all happened on our watch. I'm all for responsibility, but I can only take it myself.